Welcome to Newsmakers. I'm Lisa Oligas. In this edition, we learn about the Non-Permitted Project, a relatively new organization in the Joplin community with a goal of bringing mental health to a tabletop discussion and promoting a safe place for expression. The organization is sponsoring a back-to-school bash, a concert with several local bands, some of which have performed on the KGCS program Behind the Bands. And it also offers connections to resources in the community for those who may feel isolated and without access. We begin our conversation with the founder and resource coordinator for the Non-Permitted Project, Kyle Tracy. Thanks for being here. Welcome.
Well, thanks for having me.
So I have to ask you, how did you come up with the name, the Non-Permitted Project? What does it mean? How does it apply to your mission?
Well, being honest, mental health was not a permitted subject to talk about for a long time. It was considered taboo. Then we had COVID, and everybody got locked indoors, and we had a major uprise in mental health crisis. It started being broadcasted in the media for the first time. Mental health is more than just a 30-minute blurb. It was actually being talked about. So it was becoming more permitted. So as that pendulum swings, we wanted to hop on it and make sure that it's not going to go backwards. We want to keep that momentum driving forward.
So it's no longer not permitted.
Correct.
Yeah, double negative. Okay, so your title includes resource coordinator. Tell me some of the resources you hope to connect people with and what the need is for those resources in your community.
Awesome. So we have over 150 different resources on our bracket that we can recommend you, whether it be a primary care physician, a psychiatrist, somewhere to get a state-issued ID, or if you need rental assistance or utility bill assistance or just food and clothing, we can connect you with those resources because we believe that everybody should have that opportunity.
So mental health can be impacted by someone's personal situation, their social situation. So is it more than just helping people with, like a mental health resource?
Correct. It can be something as simple as we had an elderly couple reach out to us one time, needed some stuff done in their house, but they couldn't afford anybody. So we connected them with a local builder to come in and actually change out some cabinets and some countertops for them at just extremely low. I don't know the exact cost, but it was basically nothing.
That's great.
We connect all types of resources.
Are these things that people should be able to find on their own? Why do you feel like they need this extra help?
Well, at one point in time, you had a fancy book that you would open up and you would go down it and see builders, construction. We still have the book, but with the media and like the internet, you get just an influx of everything. And it's hard to narrow down. And sometimes, especially if you're struggling with something, you don't have the mental capacity to do a deep dive to find what actually is available in the community.
It can be overwhelming. There's almost too many options to try and
Exactly.
find the one that's really a good fit.
Correct.
Okay, so your group tell me a little bit about your mission, your goal, because you say a tabletop discussion. What does that mean when you have a mental health tabletop discussion?
So I'm in at coffee shops a lot, always doing projects and stuff, and there's been a lot of acquaintances, friends that I know have struggled with mental health, and we've talked about it loosely, but it's not something that I can approach them and say, hey, how are you doing? How is your mental health doing? I want to take out the whisper. I want it to be, how are you doing? How's your family? How's your kids? Now, how is your mental health?
Yeah. Are you still anxious? Are you still fearful?
Yeah.
Do you think that was magnified because of the pandemic for the generation?
Absolutely. I personally believe that if somebody, say, hadn't struggled or had buried it for a long time, it surfaced whenever we all got locked indoors and we couldn't go do things. And you had to sit and be with yourself.
People started to stew about things.
Exactly.
So your group offers connections to all kinds of resources, and you do have supports for the LGBTQ community. Tell us, is that a community that maybe needs more outreach, more support for from a group like yours?
Absolutely, because we are more on the artistic expression side of things. Around the area, they don't have as much ability to express themselves through their art and music or just places to hang out. And so we provide that resource to them. If they have some art that they would like to sell for the first time, we have a wall at Bookhouse cinema to where we can get them showcased for the first time. Or if they need a resource, like say primary care physician or somewhere to get a haircut, we just onboarded somebody for gender affirming haircuts, and so we do everything like that.
Kind of connecting people.
Correct.
So do you feel like what prompted you to think there was this need? You know, do you have people reaching out to say, hey, how about this? How do you find like, oh, we need to go look for somebody who does this?
As a third generation general construction, I have been in the business of resources. And without fail, every time I would go talk to a client, the first time meeting, they would ask, do you have a contact for XYZ?
Right.
And when you get to know your clients and treat them like family, they open up and they ask, do you have any idea if this is available? After years of being asked, and I would help them find something like that, whether it be somewhere that prescribes medications for bipolar disorder or PTSD. Doing that for years, I decided that it was an absolute need.
Yeah.
Because if I'm getting asked that as a just regular construction, that would imply that there's a need. There's a
more people out
breakdown
there.
in the communication.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, you also host game nights and activities, and you yourself are kind of in charge of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
So what are some of the game nights you host, and why?
Yeah, so we partner with NYKT Gaming over on 3rd and Wall.
Which is not your kitchen table gaming?
Correct.
Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
It's at 3rd and Wall at Create and Sip Studios. There's a whole bunch of different board games. You can do Pokemon, you can come in and do Lord of the Rings tabletop games. But one of the things that is most prevalent over there is D&D, Dungeons and Dragons. I personally lead a group sponsored through the Non-Permitted Project over there, to where it just gives you a chance to get out of your reality and into a character that you have custom made to be who you want to be, and you get to act and do everything that you would want some to be.
Kind of has a theatrical element to it. I mean, there are
Absolutely.
people who escape through theater,
Yes.
which I do community theater, but I mean, people escape that way. But the reality, though, is also that they are communicating with others then by being there. So
Absolutely.
is that part of it too, where you're, okay, now I have this camaraderie?
There's been a couple people come that has never really sat down in a group that they hadn't been close friends with before and had to act. And I always give extra points for those who can put on a good voice and act. And it gets them out of their shell, lets them know that they can be who they want to be, and we're not there to judge.
And so when not playing the Dungeons and Dragons, does it create other relationships that are helpful for these folks as well?
Absolutely. It lets them know that there's a community there for them, whether it be games or just somewhere to come hang out, because we'll let you come hang out and listen and just simply exist in a space where there's a good community.
Why is it so important to have that available for people who might have anxiety or mental health issues? Does it help those folks as well?
Well, speaking from personal experience, I have anxiety and mental health issues, and it has really helped bring me out of my shell. I started back in high school playing it, and it helped me be able to have a conversation with somebody that maybe I don't know very well, and it makes me critical think a little bit. It helps all the way around.
All right. Well, Kyle, thank you for being here, telling us all about this organization.
Well, thanks for having me.
We will return after a quick break, and we'll be joined by a member of the Non-Permitted Board, Angela Palsrock, and Kayla Miller, to talk about an upcoming concert. As we go to break, check out the links to the organization's website and Facebook page, where you can find lots more information and resources.
I didn't know you had a plan. Did you know and understand what you did to me tonight? What you did to me tonight? 'Cause I know, yes I know
Welcome back to Newsmakers, where our focus is a group called the Non-Permitted Project. The organization will be hosting a back-to-school bash August 26th, but also host regular activities and game nights. Joining our conversation are Kayla Miller and Angela Paulsrock, the logistics coordinator for Non-Permitted. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having us.
So tell me first, Angela, why did you get involved with this group?
Because I personally have had mental health challenges, struggles throughout the course of my life, and I'm a creative. I'm a musician. I, write and do theater and all of those things. And finding a group of like-minded individuals to kind of come together, it's amazing how those things can alleviate the stresses of mental health issues. And so finding this group has been important for me personally, but also knowing that there are events that are being hosted to bring people together as a means of support. That was really important to me. So,
do you feel like we talked about it is kind of a resource for artistic expression on the site and on the Facebook page? Do you feel like artists themselves may be more inclined to find that, have that outlet?
Oh yes, absolutely. Being a creative individual just by default, I think, I think everybody has kind of a public face and a private face. And for those of us that have creative inclinations, I think that it's easy to get overwhelmed because you want to perform, especially if you're a performer, performance, art, music or theater or any kind of anything, it has a tendency to, there's pressure, right?
Right.
And so having that additional pressure to, especially if your goal is to inspire other people, to be inspired yourself, I think there's additional. Do you agree,
Oh,
Caleb?
absolutely.
Kayla Miller, you're a board member.
Indeed.
Tell us about your involvement. You're, a musician as well.
I am, yes, and I also operate as the Director of Expression for the Non-Permitted Project, so my main job is kind of focusing on the events themselves and trying to find the artists and the musicians and all the different people that sort of come together to create the events that we do.
Yeah. So tell us, how do you feel as a musician? Is there some anxiety associated with, I have an art, I have a gift, but then I have to get in front of people to share it?
It can be, yeah. It can be either way. Sometimes it's very cathartic just being in front of people and expressing yourself, doing something that you've created and letting people see or hear that. But there's definitely times when it's really anxiety inducing. And I find for myself, like if I'm performing in front of people that I know, it's worse than people that I don't know, which is
Isn't that the
interesting.
truth? Yes.
For some people, they seem to like to be in front of people they know. I honestly don't. I'd rather be in front of a lot of strangers, but yeah.
That's kind of
It's really,
interesting.
So what do you do as a logistics coordinator, Angela?
So any event that is, come together, this is the flagship event, right? This is kind of the thing that Non-Permitted really got their momentum going for and has, gathered people together in the community. Any event requires coordination and, oversight. And so this is an opportunity where we have lots of different moving parts, and I'm that person that makes sure all those things come together for a seamless, event.
So this isn't the first concert. You've had at least 2 or 3. This is the third or
yeah,
fourth?
so this will be the third year we're doing this one. We've done a few other smaller concerts as well, but as far as the Back to School Bash, this is the third annual.
And how many bands will be performing?
We have 5 this year. And we have a really cool lineup. Kyle and I kind of curated, although we're all a little bit involved, and so of course this is one of our favorite lineups usually because
so
we
tell us
decide.
who's playing.
We have our friends in Riverside Current, who are a local all-girl punk hard rock band, really cool. Have some great friends in that band. They just started, I think, last year, so they're pretty new. We've got Speciosa, which is a fantastic, really unique sound. They've got some instrumental stuff. It's really different. We've got the Rage Tones coming in all the way from Pueblo, Colorado, which are some friends that I've seen them a couple times as a duo. This is going to be the first time I'll see them as a full band, so I'm really excited about that. Yep. We have Townhouse Fire, which are some locals. They're also local to Northwest Arkansas. They're kind of splits. If you see them down there, check them out. And then we have the Odyssey coming back out of Tulsa to headline, and I am super excited to see them as well because they are really fantastic.
We've had a lot of them featured on our show Behind the Bands, so it'll
Awesome.
be nice
Absolutely,
to see them
yeah.
performing locally. Why do the bands do it? Do they have a connection as well, or are you just, do they take part in the mission? In
Absolutely.
A sense?
In most cases, yeah, they're very supportive of what we do. Some of them have been involved in others. For instance, the Odyssey is coming back for this event. I know that one of the members of Riverside Current was actually at our very first event. That we kind of launched everything 2.5 years ago or whenever that was.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're all just incredibly supportive of what we do, and they I mean, they share our vision as far as they understand why we're doing this, and for them, it's the exact same thing as it is for us.
You performed there. What is the mood and the tone of a back-to-school bash, and what was it like?
Yeah, so my band we did the first year, and then we chose not to do last year or this year because it's just a lot to both host and coordinate and play. So, but it is a really cool mood, especially that first year when it was new and nobody was really sure what it was going to be, and I don't know. It was a little bit, I don't want to say magical, but it was really, really beautiful. There was times when, you know, we were able to bring out some of the folks that we were working with, some community partners, and have them speak and talk about what they were doing. We were able to talk about our projects, and we just had some really, really cool moments just with the bands themselves and the audience interaction.
Why do you guys think it's important to have this so that kids can start the school year maybe with, does it give them momentum? Is that part of the goal of the back to school bash?
I think it's a good time, I think, for as someone who, you know, used to be ruled by the school year calendar, right? I think it's very common for people to find this part of the year as the beginning of momentum, right? And so
Also the beginning of stress.
yeah.
Indeed, absolutely.
Yes, exactly. And an even greater need for those creative expressions, but just to make people aware. And this is a time when people are present and they're kind of receptive to those things. You know.
We have other resources there as well and things to hand out.
Absolutely, yeah.
Vendors.
Yeah, we do have some local vendors, mostly like local artists and things like that. But to answer your question a different way, we one of our big, I guess, focus groups, the groups that we kind of really focus on, is kind of that high school, college age. And Kyle likes to talk about the precipice of change, with the sort of the being in that part of your life where you're about to do something different.
Yeah.
And that being a really tough time, especially mentally. And so the reason we do this is, I think, partially because, you know, you've got people that may be starting a new school and they maybe need to meet some new friends.
Sure.
You've also got some people that are just going to not be too excited about going to school. They may be a little bit stressed, and this is just maybe a way to pump people up a little bit. It's also a way to show them that it's okay to express yourself. It's okay to be artistic. It's okay, you know, to be, I guess.
Yeah.
You know?
It's excellent support for the community. So thank you both for being here and telling us all about it.
Yeah, thank
Thank you.
Well, thanks for sharing those insights. As we go to break, we're going to see all those concert details. And when we come back, we'll discuss the community impact of an organization like the Non-Permitted Project. Stay tuned.
I saw in my dream. Let me in your heart. I'll be in the steamer and everything to my stress. Never before has it poured rain. I'm running, mama, I'm running home to you. I'm crying, mama, I'm crying. It's the madness on the move. And it's not splits and breaks. I think I've made
We're back and continuing our discussion of an organization created about 3 years ago and making its mark in the Joplin community. It's called the Non-Permitted Project. Joining the conversation now is Doug Hunt, who acts as a consulting advisor to the Non-Permitted Project. Thanks for being here.
Hey, thank you for having me.
So this group, I mean, tell us in your words why you wanted to be involved with this organization.
Well, it brings a lot of services to the community and serves individuals that otherwise would not have any services. So that's the first thing that touched my heart. So it's a real honor for me to serve on the board and do what I can to promote what the Non-Permitted is all about.
What kind of impact do you think an organization like this can have, and do you feel like it is needed in our community? Is there a void?
It's definitely needed. Yesterday, I was in a homeless coalition meeting with several key stakeholders in the city, and we were talking about the subsets of the demographic of homelessness. And there's a lot of different variables in that. And one of those is mental health. So having any and all avenues available for mental health issues is critically important. And all of us can be in a situation where we need help, if you will, if we experience a mental health injury, as I like to call it.
It doesn't have to be some extreme diagnosis,
Right.
as we saw during the pandemic. And mental health issues have gotten talked about since the pandemic, and we have Prince Harry and Lady Gaga on an international
Right.
front. But do you feel like we have open communication, open discussion in our community, or need more of it? Because they talk like we need to have tabletop discussion. Do you think it's talked about enough here?
It's being talked about, but to your question, no. And that is one of the missions of the Non-Permitted Project, not only to provide services for individuals that need that to talk through a situation that they may be in, but to also raise the awareness of mental health and its important role in the community and what makes a community successful.
You mentioned the Homeless Coalition. Are there still biases or fears of discrimination or real discrimination when it comes to those who might have mental health issues or just mental health concerns that might impact them in their daily life?
Yes, and that's part of the perception of homelessness. If you have someone that is substance abuse, an abuser, and they're choosing that, or they're suffering from an addiction, as opposed to someone that's just lost their job, or they've had a medical condition, have gone through bankruptcy, have lost their home, and they're living out of their car. To me, that is a mental health injury. So how is that individual handling that situation? Are they going to turn over to drugs and alcohol to deal with those situations? Or are we going to have a robust infrastructure of systems and services to help somebody like that walk through that dark period of their life?
Yeah, because it can get worse. I mean, and they snowball. Some of the
Yes.
problems tend to snowball. If we can maybe intervene sooner,
Yes.
it might be helpful. So is it a more common concern since the pandemic in your view? Do you think we've had more people maybe experiencing or mental health issues coming to the surface?
Yes. And I've seen that in my role at the Joplin Chamber with our most recent initiatives with remote workers. It's interesting that so many people are remote working now, but when I speak with those individuals, a common theme is that they miss the camaraderie, the collaboration, the interactive communication in real time. And what is that doing to us? If someone becomes isolated, can you be trained to become an introvert? And if so, if you're running a small business, that's not necessarily a good thing. So anything that we can do as a community, yes, we have some great medical facilities and some incredible professionals, but what I love about the Non-Permitted Project is that it's grassroots, it's very organic, and is acutely aware of the professional services available. But if somebody doesn't know where that is, they can come to the Non-Permitted and at least get on that first level, and nobody's worried about an insurance card.
Yeah. And you mentioned some who don't have access. What kind of groups are you referring to that might already have difficulties finding these resources?
Oh, one that I could think of would be LGBT community teenagers that have been kicked out of their homes. That could be one. It could be somebody that's just suffered a huge loss. I mean, just imagine hypothetically if you were a mother or father and your spouse and your children were killed in a car wreck. I mean, there's just so many things that can fall into that category that would suddenly put somebody in a place where they need some guidance because they're suddenly thrust into some trauma. And regardless of how strong all of us feel like we are, all of us as human beings can be put in a situation like that that can be very traumatic. Look at us as a community. I know back to the tornado, 3 o'clock that afternoon, we're all having hot dogs, enjoying a beautiful sunny Sunday afternoon. And 4 hours later, we were in Dante's Inferno.
Yeah, New World.
Yeah.
So how do you think this organization can truly make an impact in the community as a whole? Why, I mean, if you don't have something like this, are there weaknesses in your community? How can this make the community stronger?
The number one thing in my mind to answer that is it sends a signal to individuals that you don't have to walk through your mental health issues alone. And I think a lot of people have done that, and all of us as a society have done that for decades. And the mantra here is, no, you don't. There is a community here. And even if we don't have answers for you, this is a beautiful and safe place for you to express and to share and to vent.
Yeah.
And that's the first step.
And so they have a big concert coming up, the
Yes.
Back to School Bash concert. It's at the Cornell complex. And so how do folks can get tickets, and there's a discount, right, if you do it online?
Yes, there are posters all over town. There's a QR code on the posters. If you do it online, you get a discount, but it's $10 admission. And the proceeds help two other not-for-profits, Foster Adopt Connect and The Rock. So those are two great organizations. And
What does the ROC do? Because it's an acronym people might not realize. What is the
I
ROC?
honestly don't,
What
I
it
can't
stands
remember
for.
what the acronym is. I just know The Rock.
But they help folks with addictions?
Yes, absolutely. So there are all these component pieces that come together. So Teddy Steen, if she's watching this, I'll get in trouble for not knowing that acronym. But nonetheless, there are some great organizations, and to see that collaboration and support system is a beautiful thing.
So $10 to get in, $7 if you get your tickets online. You can go to the Non-Permitted Project Facebook page, the
Yes.
Non-Permitted Project website, find a way to get those tickets online and enjoy the concert and support this group in the community.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, Doug Hunt, for sharing your opinions and view of Non-Permitted Project.
All right. Thank you, Lisa.
And we hope you found this information helpful. And if you or someone you know is in need of support, you can find resources through the Non-Permitted Project on their website, thenonpermittedproject.com. That wraps up this edition of Newsmakers. I'm Lisa Allegas.